going to talk about maintaining each of those positions. So let's go back to mount position. We'll show you 4 different drills, one for each position, to give you an idea of how to practice maintaining each of these, okay? So I'm in mount. Now this is more of a self-defense oriented drill, because the person on bottom is going to behave maybe in a way that a more experienced grappler may not, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, I have my wide low base. I'm going to go under his head with one arm and grab his shoulder. I'm going to use my shoulder to turn his head sideways and push my hand as far as possible, okay? So, from this position, it's really difficult for him to move. But let's pretend he pushes me the opposite direction. Now, if he pushes me this way, I have a base where I won't get pushed over. Now, if he starts pushing me this way, I might get rolled. And what I need to do is switch my hands, okay? So now he pushes me back the other way. So I switch my hands, and I switch as needed, okay? Now let's say he pushes me straight in the air, because he doesn't like me being on top of him. Go and push me up. Instead of pushing down or pushing his arm to the mat, I'm going to swim my hand, keep pushing, all the way through and place it on the ground. Same thing with this side. I swim my hand all the way through and place it to the ground. Keep pushing on me. Okay, so even though he's pushing, I just swim past his arms to keep my pressure on top of him without having to worry about his strength. So the last variation of this we're going to go over today, let's say he takes this arm and he does something called an overhook. He raises his hand like he has a question and wraps it all the way around my arm. This is a good way to trap my arm and roll me over. So what I'm going to do, same idea as before, I swim my, hold on my arm. I swim my hand all the way around and back to the mat. Try it again on the other side. So reach your hand up, good, overhook, and I swim. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Then he pushes me off of him. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, and side to side. Hopefully you get the idea. So that's how we would maintain mount. Okay, so now we're in side control. We're gonna talk about how to maintain that position, okay? So I go under his head and arm, lock my hands, head down. All right, now if he rolls away from me, I wanna make sure this arm does not get caught underneath his arm. So if he rolls away, go ahead, roll away from me. I post this hand on the ground, maintaining control of his head, and I push back so his shoulder blades stay flat on the ground, okay? Now, if he rolls towards me, I post my foot on the ground as needed and press him down flat to the ground, okay? So if he rolls away, I stop him that way. If he rolls towards me, here. That way I'm always keeping him as flat as possible, okay? You can also practice switching your knees. So this knee might be blocking this hip, or this knee might be blocking this hip. And that's just a basic way of maintaining the position. So now we're going to talk about maintaining rear mount, okay? So we're in the sled position. You have to face that way. Thank you, sir. All right, so now my feet go on the inside of his legs, I go under his arm, over the other arm, lock my hands, and step 3, squeeze super tight, okay? So in order to maintain this position, there's 2 different things I like to focus on, okay? Well, maybe 3 things. We'll get into that, okay? Now, if I stay close to his hips, like this, nice and close, as he moves around, I'm going to be glued to his back like a backpack, okay? Which can be good in certain situations. But if I want to, for some reason, keep him where he is and not let him move, I actually should scoot away from his hips and still hold him tight. Notice how his head dips down to the middle of my chest, okay? Now, from this position, if I squeeze everything tight, try and roll around on me, even if they're much bigger than me, it's going to be a lot harder for them to move, okay? So that's one way of maintaining position. Next, there are a number of grips we can use, but I'm going to show you my favorite. It's called a knife hand grip. I make a blade with my hand, I take this other hand underneath his armpit and grab the bottom of that blade. Next, I'm going to tuck it into his armpit so it's difficult for him to reach, okay? So this is my primary grip that I use to maintain this position. And then lastly, even if for some reason my legs were not on the inside of his legs, I need to make sure my head stays close to his in this little hole, and I control the posture of his neck. Here. So as long as I stay here, if he moves around, go ahead. I can either follow him or try to maintain this position and not let him move. But I'll have control regardless of where he goes, okay? So if we're going to talk about a drill for maintaining position, we'll actually switch spots here so he can do the drill because of the size difference, okay? So we're going to start out the same way. He gets back control, or in other words, rear mount on me. Goes under this arm, over this one, locks his hands tight. He's going to step 3, tuck his head in and squeeze, okay? So now I'm going to go all over the place, and his goal is just to glue himself to my back like a monkey. Ready? Go. Now, if you're doing this with your son or daughter, you can have some fun with it and pretend like you're a crazy horse and they cling on tight, nay, nay, and they always laugh and have a lot of fun. But even if you are an adult working with an adult, this will teach you to ride the person's hips, and occasionally you could control them and not let them move either. So try this, Mr. Jackson. Scoot back. Keep your grip on me, though. Don't let go of your hands. Okay, good. Now scoot back away from my hips. Pull me into your chest, and now squeeze and extend your legs. Okay, hold on tight with your arms. Remember that grip we talked about? Knife hand grip right here. Good, ready, go. Hold on tight. And so now, I can still move because I'm much bigger and stronger, but it makes it much harder to move. Time. When he's further from my hips. So that's maintaining the rear mount. All right, last, we're going to go over how to maintain the guard position, okay? So I'm going to have my partner sit on his knees and back on his heels. So take a look at how he's sitting here. Nice wide low base, okay? Now I'm going to wrap my legs around his waist and lock them together, okay? This is called closed guard. All right, so now what I want to do, I'm going to sit all the way up, and this hand goes around his head and grabs his shoulder. This hand overhooks his arm, okay? And then I'm going to just lean back and hold on tight. Now you'll notice he can't punch with this arm that I have trapped. Go ahead. Punch, punch. Try and punch me with that hand. Okay? And if he does, it's not very effective. Okay? So, he does have this other hand free though. Let's turn this way. Turn. He does have this other hand free though, where he could punch me or try and push me away from him. Okay? Now, one way to combat him punching me is to keep my head tucked in super tight so it's hard to reach my head. And there's another thing I could do too, but we'll talk about that later. Let's say though he takes this free hand and pushes me away from him. Go ahead, push away. All right, so he's creating space. What I need to do is swim. So I take this free hand, I'm going to swim it all the way from the outside in and overhook his arm. This hand can switch to his head. And once again, I tuck my head in. So let's say he does it with the other arm. He's going to push me away again. Same thing. I swim all the way around, raise my hand like I have a question, and overhook his arm, control his head, tuck my head in. Okay? So we'll continue this as he tries to push away and I maintain position. Ready? Go. Push yourself away. Push away. Create space. Keep going. Push away. Push away. And so on. Okay? Now, let's say he's punching me. One last thing I can do is he draws his fist back to try and strike with a bunch of strength. I'm going to grab his wrist and slide my shin bone right in the crook of his elbow. Okay? This is getting a little more advanced, but from here, it's difficult for him to strike me, and I can move on to all sorts of other techniques. Okay? So, from here, he's just going to move around, try to escape, try and punch me, and I'm going to protect myself. Ready, go. Okay, so with jiu-jitsu, it's oftentimes the exact opposite of what you might expect. In most people that are untrained, they might try and push the person away to protect themselves. But in this case, we're pulling them close to protect ourselves so they don't have any space to attack us. So that gives you at least an idea of how to maintain those basic positions.